Welcome to Billerica Public Library's September Publications Book Buzz. Sit back and listen to some great blurbs on some of our newest acquisitions at the Billerica Public Library and Merrimack Valley Consortium. Our first genre is contemporary fiction. A Calling for Charlie Barnes by Joshua Ferris. Someone is telling the story of the life of Charlie Barnes, and it doesn't appear to be going well. Too often divorced, discontent with life's compromises, and in a house he hates. This lifelong schemer and an eternal romantic would like out of his present circumstances and into the American dream. But when the twin calamities of the Great Recession and a cancer scare come along to compound his troubles, his dreams dwindle further, and an infinite past full of forking paths quickly tapers to a black dot. Then, against all odds, something goes right for a change. Charlie is granted a second act. With help from his storyteller son, he surveys the facts of his life and finds his true calling where he least suspects it. In a sacrifice that redounds with selflessness and love, at last becoming the man his son always knew he could be. Bewilderment by Richard Powers. The astrobiologist Theo Bine searches for life throughout the cosmos while single-handedly raising his unusual 9-year-old Robin, following the death of his wife. Robin is a warm, kind boy who spends hours painting elaborate pictures of endangered animals. He's also about to be expelled from third grade for smashing his friend in the face. As his son grows more troubled, Theo hopes to keep him off psychoactive drugs. He learns of an experimental neurofeedback treatment to bolster Robin's emotional control, one that involves training the boy on the recorded patterns of his mother's brain. The Archer by Shruti Sami. As a child, Vida exists to serve her family, watch over her younger brother, and make sense of a motherless world. One day, she catches sight of a class where the students are learning kara, a precise, dazzling form of dance that requires utmost discipline and focus. Kara quickly becomes the organizing principle in Vida's life, even as she leaves home for college, falls in love with her best friend, and battles demands on her time, her future, and her body. Can Vida give herself over to her art and also be a wife in Bombay's carefully delineated society? Can she shred the legacy of her own imperfect, unknowable mother? Must she herself also become a mother? The Magician by Colin Tobin. Thomas Mann grows up with a conservative father, bound by priority, and a Brazilian mother, alluring and unpredictable. Young man hides his artistic aspirations from his father and his homosexual desires from everyone. He is infatuated with one of the richest, most cultured Jewish families in Munich and marries the daughter Kata, and they have 6 children. On a holiday in Italy, he longs for a boy he sees on a beach and writes the story Death in Venice. He is the most successful novelist of his time, winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature, a public man whose private life remains secret. He is expected to lead the condemnation of Hitler, whom he underestimates. His oldest daughter and son, leaders of the anti Nazi movement, share lovers. He flees Germany for Switzerland, France, and ultimately America, living first in Princeton and then in Los Angeles. Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. Alice, a novelist, meets Felix, who works in a warehouse, and asks him if he'd like to travel to Rome with her. In Dublin, her best friend Eileen is getting over a breakup and slips back into flirting with Simon, a man she has known since childhood. Alice, Felix, Eileen, and Simon are still young, but life is catching up with them. They desire each other, they delude each other, they get together, they break apart. They have sex, they worry about sex, they worry about their friendships and the world they live in. Are they standing in the last lighted room before the darkness, bearing witness to something? Will they find a way to believe in a beautiful world? Our second genre is cultural fiction. In Every Mirror She's Black by Lola Arkenstrom. Successful marketing executive Kemi is lured from the US to Sweden by Johnny Van London, CEO of the nation's largest marketing firm, to help fix a PR fiasco involving a racially tone deaf campaign. A killer at work, but a failure in love, Kemi's move is a last ditch effort to reclaim her social life. A chance meeting with Johnny in business class en route to the US propels former model turned flight attendant Brittany Ray Johnson into a life of wealth, luxury, and privilege, a life she's not sure she wants, as the object of his unhealthy obsession. And refugee Muna, who lost her entire family, finds a job cleaning toilets at Johnny's office as she works to establish her residency in Sweden and, more importantly, seeks a connection in a place she can call home. The Matzo Ball by Jean Meltzer. Rachel Rubenstein Globlat is a nice Jewish girl with a shameful secret. She loves Christmas. For a decade, she's hidden her career as a Christmas romance novelist from her family. Her talent has made her a bestseller, even as her chronic illness has always kept the kind of love she writes about out of reach. But when her diversity conscious publisher insists she write a Hanukkah romance, her well of inspiration suddenly runs dry. Hanukkah is not magical, it's not merry, it's not Christmas. Desperate not to lose her contract, Rachel's determined to find her muse at the Matzah Ball, a Jewish music celebration on the last night of Hanukkah, even if it means working with her summer camp archenemy, Jacob Greenberg. Though Rachel and Jacob haven't seen each other since they were kids, their grudge still grows brighter than a menorah. But as they spend more time together, Rachel finds herself drawn to Hanukkah and Jacob in a way she never expected. Maybe this holiday of lights will be the spark she needed to set her heart ablaze. Our third genre is historical fiction. Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. 13-year-old Anna, an orphan, lives inside the formidable walls of Constantinople in a house of women who make their living embroidering the robes of priests. Restless, Anna learns to read in this ancient city famous for its libraries. She finds a book, The Story of Athens, who longs to be turned into a bird so that he can fly to a utopian paradise in the sky. This she reads to her ailing sister as the walls of the only place she has known are bombarded at the great siege of Constantinople. Outside the walls is Omar, a village boy miles from home, conscripted with his beloved oxen into an invading army. His path and Anna's will cross. The New Kingdom by Wilbur Smith. In the city of Ahan, Yu lives an enchanted life, the favored son of a doting father, a ruler in waiting of the great city. His fate is set. But behind the beautiful city, a sinister evil is plotting. Craving power and embittered by jealousy, Yu's stepmother, the great sorceress, as a threat, and Yu's own brother Quinn orchestrate the downfall of Yu's father, condemning Yu and seizing power in the city. Cast out and alone, Yu finds himself a captive of a skilled and powerful army of outlaws, the Hyksos. Determined to seek vengeance for the death of his father and rescue his sister, Yu swears his allegiance to those enemies of Egypt. Through them, he learns the art of war and learning how to fight. But soon, Yu finds himself in even a greater battle, one for the very heart of Egypt itself. Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead. Ray was only slightly bent when it came to being crooked. To his customers and neighbors on the 125th Street, Connie is an upstanding salesman of reasonably priced furniture, making a decent life for himself and his family. He and his wife Elizabeth are expecting their second child, and if her parents on Strivers Row don't approve of him or their camped apartment across from the subway tracks, it's still home. Few people know he descends from a line of uptown hoods and crooks, and that his facade of normalcy has more than a few cracks in it, cracks that are getting bigger all the time. Cash is tight, especially with all those installment plan sofas. So if his cousin Freddie occasionally drops off an odd ring or necklace, Ray doesn't ask where it comes from. He knows a discreet jeweler downtown who doesn't ask questions either. Then Freddie falls in with the crew who plan to rob the Hotel Teresa, the Waldorf of Harlem, and volunteers Ray's services as the fence. The heist doesn't go as planned. They rarely do. Now Ray has a new clientele, one made up of shady cops, vicious local gangsters, two-bit pornographers, and other assorted Harlem lowlifes. The Mad Woman's Ball by Victoria Maz. For Salpêtrière Asylum, Paris 1885, Dr. Sherrod holds all of Paris in thrall with his displays of hypnotism on women who have been deemed mad and cast out from society. But the truth is much more complicated. These women are often simply inconvenient, unwanted wives, those who have lost something precious, wayward daughters, or girls born from adulterous relationship. For the Parisian society, the highlight of the year is the Lenten Ball, the Madwoman's Ball, when the great and the good come to gawk at the patience of the Salpeter dressed up in their finery for one night only. For the women themselves, it is a rare moment of hope. Our fourth genre is romantic fiction. Witch Please by Anne Agari. Danica Waterhouse is a fully modern witch, daughter, granddaughter, cousin, and co-owner of Fix-It Witches, a magical tech repair shop. After a messy breakup that included way too much family feedback, Danica made a pact with her cousin. They'll keep their hearts protected, have fun, without involving any of the overly opinionated Waterhouse family. Danica is more than a little exhausted navigating a long-standing family feud where Grahams thinks the only good Maldane is a dead one, and Danica's mother weaves floral crowns for anyone who crosses her path. 3 blocks down from the Fix-It Witches, Titus, owner of Sugar Daddy's Bakery, has family trouble of his own. After a tragic loss, all he's got left is his sister, the bakery, and a lifetime of terrible luck and love. Sure, business is sweet, but he can't seem to shake the romantic curse that left him past his 30 and still a virgin. He decided he's doomed to be forever alone until he meets Danica. The sparks are instant, their attraction irresistible. For him, she's the one. To her, he's a firebomb thrown in the middle of a family war. Can a modern witch find love with an old fashioned Meldane who refuses to settle for anything less than forever? Portrait of a Scotsman by Evie Dunmore. London banking heiress Hedy Greenfield wanted just 3 things in life: acclaim as an artist, a noble cause, and marriage to a young lord who puts the gentle and gentleman. Why then does this Oxford scholar find herself at the altar with the darkly attractive financier Lucian Blackstone, whose murky past and ruthless business practices strike fear in the hearts of Britain's peerage? Trust Hattie to take a little adventure too far. Now she's stuck with a churlish Scot who just might be the end of her ambitions. When the daughter of his business rival all but falls in his lap, Lucian sees the opportunity. As a self-made man, he has vast wealth but holds little power. Hattie might be the key to finally settling long-harbored political plans in motion. Driven by an old desire for revenge, he has no room for his new wife's apprehensions or romantic notions, bewitching as he finds her. But his sudden journey to Scotland paints everything in a different light. Hattie slowly sees the real Lucian and realizes she could win everything as long as she's prepared to lose her heart. The Matchmaker's Lonely Heart by Nancy Campbell Allen. Amelia Hampton is a hopeless romantic, which makes her the perfect columnist to answer lonely heart letters in the Marriage Gazette. When Amelia plays matchmaker with 2 lonely hearts, she also decides to secretly observe the couple's blind date. To her surprise, the man who appears for the date is Harold Radcliffe, a grieving widower and a member of Amelia's book club. Police Detective Michael Baker has been struggling ever since his best friend and brother in law died in the line of fire. Because he knows of the dangers of his job, he has vowed never to marry and subject a wife and family to the uncertainty of his profession. But when he meets Miss Hampton, he is captured by her innocence, beauty, and her quick mind. When a woman's body is pulled from the river, Michael suspects the woman's husband, Harold Ratcliffe, of foul play. Amelia refuses to believe that Harold is capable of such violence, but agrees to help, imagining it will be like one of her favorite mystery novels. Her social connections and clever observations prove an asset to the case, and Amelia is determined to prove Mr. Ratcliffe's innocence. But the more time Amelia and Michael spend together, the more they trust each other and the more they realize they are a good team, maybe the perfect match. They also realize that Mr. Radcliffe is hiding more than one secret, and when his attention turns towards Amelie, Michael knows he must put an end to this case before the woman he loves comes to harm. Our fifth genre is science fiction. Dare to Know by James Kennedy. Our narrator is the most talented salesperson at Dare to Know, a company that has developed the technology to predict anyone's death down to the second. Divorced, estranged from his sons, and broke, he's driven to violate the cardinal rule of the business by forecasting his own death date. The problem is, his prediction says he died 23 minutes ago. The only person who can confirm its accuracy is Julia, the woman he loved and lost during his rise up to the ranks of Dare to Know. As he travels across the country to see her, he's forced to confront his past, the choices he made, and the terrifying truth about the company he works for. Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Oki. Shizuka made a deal with the devil. To escape damnation, she must entice 7 other violin proteges to trade their souls for success. She has already delivered 6. When Katrina, a young transgender runaway, catches Suzuki ear with her wild talent, Suzuki can almost feel the curse lifting. She's found her final candidate. But in a donut shop off the bustling highway in the San Gabriel Valley, Shizuka meets Lan, a retired starship captain, interstellar refugee, and mother of 4. Shizuka doesn't have time for crushes or coffee dates, what with her very soul on the line. But Lan's kind smile and eyes like stars might just redefine a soul's worth. And maybe something as small as a warm donut is powerful enough to break a curse vast as the California coastline. Our sixth genre is fantasy. A Song of Flight by Juliet Mariller. Bad and Fighter Lebanon is always ready for a challenge. So when the news arrives at Swan Island that the Prince of Dalrada has gone missing after an assault by both masked men and the sinister crowfolk, she's eager to act. While Lebanon and her fellow Swan Island warriors seek answers to the prince's disappearance, the Bard broke Labion's brother finds himself in dire trouble. His attempts to communicate with the crowfolk have led him down a perilous path. When Lebanon and her comrades are sent to the rescue, it becomes clear the 2 missions are connected, and a great mystery unfolds. What brought the crowfolk to Erin? Who seeks to use them in an unscrupulous bid for power? As Lebanon and Brock investigate, it will take all of their strength and will to continue pursuing the truth. With the safety of their loved ones in the balance, and the risk they may take may cost them everything. Empire of the Vampire by J. Christoph Kandel. It has been 27 long years since the last sunrise. For nearly 3 decades, vampires have waged war against humanity, building their eternal empire even as they tear down our own. Now, only a tiny few sparks of light endure in a sea of darkness. Gabriel is a silver saint, a member of the Holy Brotherhood dedicated to defending the realm and church from the creatures of the night. But even the civil order could not stem the tide once daylight failed us, and now only Gabriel remains. Imprisoned by the very monsters he vowed to destroy, the last Silver Saint is forced to tell a story of legendary battles and forbidden love, of faith lost and friendships won, of the wars of blood and the forever king, and the quest for humanity's last remaining hope. No Gods, No Monsters by Cadwell Turnbull. One October morning, Lena gets the news that her brother was shot and killed by Boston cops. What looks like a case of Bruce brutality soon reveals something much stranger. Monsters are real, and they want everyone to know it. As creatures from myth and legend come out of the shadows, seeking safety through visibility, their emergence sets off a train of seemingly unrelated events. Members of a local werewolf pack are threatened into silence. A professor follows a missing friend's trail of bread of crumbs to a mysterious secret society, and a young boy with unique abilities seeks refuge in a pro monster organization with secrets of its own. Meanwhile, more people start disappearing. Suicide and hate crimes increase, and protests erupt globally, both for and against the monsters. Our seventh genre is mystery and suspense. My Sweet Girl by Amanda J. Tisa. Ever since she was adopted from Sri Lanka orphanage, Paloma had the best of everything: schools, money, parents so perfect that she fears she'll never live up to them. Now at 30 years old and recently cut off from her parents' funds, she decides to sublet the second bedroom of her overpriced San Francisco apartment to Arun, who recently moved from India. Paloma has to admit it feels good helping someone find their way in America. That is until Arun discovers Paloma's darkest secret, one that could jeopardize her own fragile place in this country. Before she can pay Arun off, she finds him face down in a pool of blood. She flees the apartment, but by the time the police arrive, there's no body and no evidence that Arun ever existed in the first place. Paloma is terrified that this will all somehow tangle up in the desperate action she took to escape Sri Lanka so many years ago. Did Paloma's secret die with her on, or is she now greater danger than ever before? Chronicles from the Land of the Happiest People on Earth by Wole Soyinka. In an imaginary Nigeria, a cunning businessman is selling body parts stolen from Dr. Menka's hospital for use in realistic practices. Dr. Menka shares the grisly news with his oldest college friend, star engineer and Yoruba royal Durul. The life of every party, Durul is about to assume a prestigious post at the United Nations in New York. But it now seems that someone is determined that he not make it there, and neither Dr. Menka nor Durul knows why, or how close the enemy is, or how powerful. When Ghosts Come Home by Wiley Cash. When the roar of a low flying plane awakens him in the middle of the night, Sheriff Winston Barnes knows something strange is happening at the nearby airfield on the coast of North Carolina. But nothing can prepare him for what he finds. A large airplane has crash landed and is now sitting sideways on the runway. There are no signs of a pilot or cargo. When the body of a local man is discovered, shot dead and lying on the grass near the crash site, Winston begins a murder investigation that will change the course of his life and the fate of the community that he is sworn to protect. Forgotten in Death by J.D. Robb. The body was left in the dumpster like so much trash. The victim, a woman of no fixed address, known for offering paper flowers in return for spare change, and for keeping the cops informed of any infractions she witnessed on the street. But the notebook where she scribed her intel on litterers and other such offenders is nowhere to be found. Then Eve is summoned away to a nearby building site to view more remains, in this case, decades old, adorned with gold jewelry and fine clothing, unearthed by a recent construction work. She isn't happy when she realizes that the scene of the crime belongs to her husband, Warren. Not that it should surprise her, since the Irish billionaire owns a good chunk of New York. Now Eve must enter a complex world of real estate development, family history, shady deals, and shocking secrets to find justice for two women whose lives were thrown away. Our last genre is informational text. Pump, A Natural History of the Heart by Bill Shute. Long ago, when we first began puzzling over the mysteries of the human body, one organ stood out as vital. The heart was warm, it was central, and it moved as it pumped blood. The ancient Egyptians treated it with reverence, mummifying it separately from the body so that the soul inside could be weighed. Aristotle believed that it was the seat of consciousness. Over the centuries, science has dispelled the myths, but our fascination with the heart has endured. Fuzz by Mary Roach. What's to be done about a jaywalking moose, a bear caught breaking and entering, a murderous trait? 300 years ago, animals that broke the law would be assigned legal representation and put on trial. These days, as New York Times bestselling author Mary Roach discovers, the answers are best found in science, the curious science of human wildlife conflict, a discipline at the crossroads of human behavior and wildlife biology. The Kaepernick Effect by Dave Zion. In 2016, amid an epidemic of police shootings of African Americans, the celebrated NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick began a series of quiet protests on the field, refusing to stand during the U.S. national anthem. By taking a knee, Colin bravely joined a long tradition of American athletes making powerful political statements. This time, however, Colin's simple act spread like wildfire throughout American society, becoming the preemptive symbol of resistance to America's persistence of racial inequality. Where Did the Universe Come From and Other Cosmic Questions by Chris Ferry. Over the last few centuries, humans have successfully unraveled much of the language of the universe, exploring and defining formerly mysterious phenomena such as electricity, magnetism, and matter through beauty of mathematics. But some secrets remain beyond our realm of understanding and seemingly beyond the very laws and theories we have relied on to make sense of the universe we inhabit. It is clear that the quantum, the world of atoms and electrons, is entwined with the cosmos, a universe of trillions of stars and galaxies. But exactly how these two extremes of human understandings interact remains a mystery. The Auschwitz Photographer by Luka Kripa and Marazo Onis, Poland, 1939. Professional photographer Wilhelm Brass is deported to Auschwitz-Birkenau and finds himself in a deadly race to survive. Assigned to work as the camp's intake photographer and take identity pictures of prisoners as they arrive by the trainload. Brass soon discovers his photography skills are in demand from the Nazi guards as well, who ask him to take personal portraits for them to send to their families and girlfriends. Behind the camera, Brass is safe from the terrible fate that so many of his fellow prisoners meet. But over the course of 5 years, the horrifying scenes his lens captured, including inhumane medical experiments led by Mengele, and changed Brass forever.